Welcome to Careers Decoded. I'm Megha, and I'm thrilled to be your host today as we dive into the world of engineering careers. Joining us is a distinguished alumna of Model Engineering College, a seasoned professional in the field of digital VLSI engineering. I warmly welcome Minnu Jose, an experienced DFT engineer at Apple. She has a stellar background in consumer electronics and a master's degree from the prestigious University of Southern California. Welcome, Minnu.
Hi, Megha. Thank you for that introduction. I'm really happy that you have asked me to talk to you and ask all the questions that you have. I'm happy to help in any way. So, yeah, thank you.
So let's get started. Your journey
Yeah,
from
sure.
being an MEC to University of Southern California and now working at a MAN company would have been incredible. So can you share your journey of studying electronics and communication engineering to now becoming a DFT engineer at the consumer electronics industry?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it seems like a long journey. So I did my BTech in MEC from 2008 to 2012. So I passed out in 2012. It's over a decade now. So yeah, my major was EC in when I was in college. And then luckily I got placed in a company from MEC called Open Silicon as ASIC design engineer. So that was like my introduction into the world of VLSI. We did have some basic courses in college. Like we had an elective called VLSE, and we also had like a lot of digital design related courses as part of curriculum in BTech. So I had like some basics, so that helped me acquire a job. So yeah, so Open Silicon was the first step where I learned more in detail about ASIC design, VLSI design, and all that. And I was very fascinated by it. I worked there for 2 years, but as I was working there, I felt the urge to learn more. I know that industry also gives you learning, it also gives you an experience, but I felt like if I had studied VLSI in detail, then I would be able to perform well and I would be able to like enhance my career in a way. And then I started looking for options like how can I do, where can I study, and also working in the industry, I also had the chance to interact with a lot of people coming from various parts of India who have different academic backgrounds and stuff like that. So, and also my seniors at the company I worked in. So I kind of started getting an idea of what would work best, and then I found out that, yeah, if I have to be in VLSI, then Silicon Valley is the best place to be. That's how I started looking for US universities. And yeah, eventually I applied to few colleges which I felt like suited my um, profile and interest. And luckily I got an admit. And then I came to US. I joined University of Southern California, which is in Los Angeles. Um, and did my master's from 2014 to 2016. And I joined Apple as an intern during my last semester. So that's how I got placed in Apple. And then after my internship, they gave me a full-time offer. So I started working at Apple after that. So looking back, it almost feels like a dream at some times. But I'm also very happy on how things worked out eventually. So yeah, that's my journey so far. Yeah.
That's a beautiful journey to hear from a senior. So most Indian students, be it from the non-CS branch, nowadays get placed in the IT industries. So comparatively, the knowledge level of what actually an engineer from their core companies do at the industry level are lesser known. Would you share some light on the same? Or yeah, how do we say it less? How, as a DFT engineer, what are your key responsibilities and challenges that you face in ensuring the functionality and testability of ASIC designs?
Yeah. So I cannot talk for the entire industry because it's very vast. Even if you study EC or computer science or all the various branches that our college offers, the core companies have a specific role and your job is mostly related to like what the product is or what is it that the company is working for. So as I was placed in an ASIC design company, so we design ASIC. ASIC is application specific integrated circuits. So a lot of products these days have the customized IC, which is customized for their operation. Like if a phone or like server, like whatever it is for their, it is catered to their what operation that the chip does. So a different, so as I mentioned, like different core companies have different roles. So as an ASIC design engineer, my role was to make sure that the chip that we design is functioning properly and it's achieving everything as per the expectation. And my role in ASIC design also has various roles. I was working as a DFT engineer, like, so I will give you more about DFT, like more details about DFT because that's my current role. So DFT stands for design for test, like, so it is a major component of ASIC design, which makes sure that once a chip is manufactured, you are able to distinguish between a good part and a bad part, like, and it is very important because every product oriented company ensures a certain level of standard. Like, a company cannot afford to ship a bad part, like, a bad chip in a phone and sell it to the customer. Obviously, the uh, feedback will be bad and it will affect the sales and everything. So that's where DFT plays a big role. So what my roles and contribution to make sure that the ASIC is like, a certain standard is, so a lot of things regarding DFT I learned as I was working because in coursework, I just knew the definition of it. Okay, this is DFT, like, and so there was some idea, but only when I started working in detail, I got to know, okay, what are the things that we do? So it is a collaboration sometimes with different teams. So you have to understand the architecture and kind of understand how to test it. So initially we work with the designers to understand what to do, and then we kind of implement the logic. And then there is a phase where we verify it, like, everything needs to be verified. And then we kind of test it on the tester itself. So that is like after the silicon is manufactured, like, so it is a process. It is a process, like, according to the timeline of the chip. And yeah, it is very interesting, like, to actually go through that process and finally see that the project that you worked on actually comes into a product. So yeah, it's a fulfilling journey. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So you did mention earlier, but once again, to reach your current university, what were the preparations that you did for appearing for the exams that you got you into University of Southern California?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, as I mentioned, like I had no idea that I would be going to US or pursuing masters or stuff like that when I was a student in MEC at that time. And even I think during those days, like, 2000s, early 2010, around that time when I was a student, it was not known that people go for higher education that much. Like, most 90% of our colleagues were like, we want to get placed, we want a job. So that was our aim. So I was also like that. And once I got a job, I started working. That's when I was like, oh, I need to study more. And when I got to know that, okay, even like, so coming to US, there are so many factors. Like, first of all, you're going so far away. So you have to know whether, like, you are cut out for it. Then there is a financial aspect to it, and there's a family aspect to it. You're going away from family, like, so a lot of factors. But I was like confident enough to give it a try. So when then I started doing research about what are the procedures. So to come to US, the main thing is you have to clear GRE. GRE is an exam conducted by I don't remember who conducts it, but that is the exam that you have to clear to so you have to get a decent score in GRE. I don't know if the format right now is the same as what I had. Like, it's been over a decade, so I am not very up to date with how the format is. But I'm sure that even now, GRE is the exam you have to clear. GRE consists of a quantitative ability and also verbal skill. So these are the two things. It doesn't test your technical skill. It's mostly quantitative, which is like math and verbal skill. And then there is also another exam called TOEFL, which is also more to test your English language proficiency. So these are the two main exams that I prepared for. I think I prepared for less than 6 months. and it was enough to, and I prepared along with my current job, like I was also working. So I think I would prepare a few hours in the evening, and that was enough. Um, there are also a lot of coaching centers, online tutorials, I think, available to
Yeah.
study and give mock tests and stuff like that. I didn't do it because for me, it was just giving it a try, like, so I was like, let me try, like, I wasn't even sure if I'll get it. So I thought I'll try on my own. But I think people who are like really passionate and sure about it could make use of these resources, like, to get a better score, because it really helps, it add-ons to your profile. And other than that, I think for application for universities, you have to prepare something called a SOP, which is called a statement of purpose. So that is a very important document. It's like a Word document in which you describe why you want to pursue this particular course in this particular university. So you kind of describe your academic background. You say that, hey, this is what I'm coming from. This is what I have learned, and I want to learn more. And this is why I think I will be a good fit in your university. So that piece of document is very important. You have to put in a lot of thought, because that's what kind of, it's like you're applying from a different corner in the world, and somebody like, far away is reviewing that document. They don't know anything about you. You have not seen them in person, but this document kind of speaks for you. So you prepare a strong statement of purpose, and that kind of improves, adds to your profile. And then I think you get letter of recommendation from your professors or where you work from. So that adds to your profile. And then it's all about your GPA, like, your undergrad GPA or your, so that, and the projects that you have done. So everything kind of adds value. So I kind of made sure that whatever I'm catering towards, I prepare like a very strong profile. And then obviously I filled application forms for, then I also did some research on, because there are hundreds of universities in the US, and it is not feasible to apply to all the universities, because the application fee of each university itself, when I like was like 100 I mean, at that time it was 100 USD or something, like, I don't know now it is. So when you convert it into INR, you cannot like apply to all the universities. So you really have to shortlist and see what fits for you. So I think I shortlisted some 6 to 8 universities at that time based on, like, my criteria. I used to look up the university website, and I used to look at the course catalogs, like what are the different courses the university offers. And I used to see, okay, I want to study this. Like, so I kind of made a profile. And I also, the other factors I looked up was I looked at location. Like, some people told me that it's if I am looking, yeah, you should know what your eventual goal is. Some, like, you can go to research, do research. There are a lot of students who prepare to come to US and they do PhD and they do research. Or do you want to end up in the industry? Is your final goal to work after you study? So depending on that, you have to also choose universities accordingly. Like some universities are very heavy on research. There'll be a lot of good professors who offer really good research topics. So you can look at that. But my goal was to work. Like I liked working. I just felt like I need to learn more to be able to work more efficiently and be able to grow my career in the company. So I was very clear that I wanted to work. So I also chose universities which are catered towards job, where good companies like MANG companies recruit from. Like, they have like a top list of universities usually where they recruit from and all that. So I kind of looked at that, and then I did my research and did the application. So I think the whole process from preparing for GRE to finishing application took almost a year. And also most universities, the application deadlines are like 6 to 8 months before the course begins. So you have to start your preparation accordingly. Say you want to go to study next year, so you should first check when the application deadlines are. And by that application deadline, you should have all these things ready. You should have a GRE score, you should have your SOP ready, letter of recommendation ready. I think you also need some transcript from the university. So all these things you have to have it ready. So that's a planning process. So that's what I did, and eventually ended up getting the admit. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a detailed explanation to why you chose your higher studies abroad rather than within India. And
Yeah.
so, while studying over there, what actually inspired to specialize in digital VLSI, and how has that field evolved since you began your career?
Um, so uh, so I had some experience in DFT, but I was not like, hey, I will only work in DFT. It was never like that. Like, I wanted to learn in detail. So I took a lot of courses related to computer architecture and also like and I kind of was more interested in digital design than analog because I felt for me personally, analog was little more like, ambitious, or I wouldn't say ambitious, it was more difficult for me, like, because it was more challenging. Like, I had tried taking some analog courses and those courses felt a little challenging for me. So I felt like I should focus on digital design. And I also like digital design a lot. Like, when I even when I learned in like during BTech, we learn a lot of things. In our BTech, we have like analog design courses, we have digital design, we have communication, we have power electronics, we have all those. But I felt like even while learning, I was very much interested in digital design. It's something that interests you, right? So I'm glad that I could pursue what interested me. So I was very clear that I only applied to this one major. Every university I applied, I was very clear VLSI digital design. That was the goal I had. And I think the 2 years of work experience was also in that industry. So I was like, okay, I like it. I just want to be better at it. That was my whole point at that time. But when I was studying, I tried to explore, as I mentioned, I took courses. I took VLSI courses, but I was also like interested in computer architecture and I was like open about it. And also, when you look for jobs, you cannot be like, I want this. No, you cannot be that
Yeah,
picky. Like
yeah.
obviously you have a certain idea in mind, but then you also try to look for all possible opportunities that you can gain with that. So for me, yeah, I was very clear I wanted to pursue this major, like, right on. Yeah.
So what were the challenges that you would have faced while studying abroad at that young age during
Okay.
that time? And how did you cope up with this? Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes when I look back, I was like, man, I had guts at that time to do this. Like,
Good.
yeah, because I don't know. Like, I think at that time I was just very passionate. In my mind, I was like, I want to study. And at that time, I was maybe ready to face all the hurdles that came your way. I remember having a conversation with my father that, hey, I'm interested in studying. And when I mentioned USA, the first question my dad asked was, do you really have to go that far? Like,
Sure, yeah,
like
that's
that was the first
understandable.
question my family asked me, and I'm like, I told my father, yes, I want to learn from the best colleges. So he's like, yeah, go for it. So my parents were very supportive. They never questioned why she's doing it, or like, they never tried to pull me back. So that kind of gave me a big sense of confidence. Like when your family supports you, it's like you have crossed half the hurdle, like, So my dad was like, yeah, go for it. I don't know anything about what you do, so I cannot help in any way. Maybe I can support you financially, but other than that, it's all yours. So I was like, no, I will take care of everything. So at that time, I did not know a lot of people, like, because there, especially from MEC, there were very few seniors who had who had been studying masters, but I did search for them in LinkedIn. And even though I had not spoken to them in college, I just reached out, like, and I'm glad I did because they were really helpful. Like whoever I reached out to, were really helpful. And when you feel like someone from your same background or who grew up where you grew up is doing something somewhere else and they made it, it kind of gives you a little more confidence that, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
maybe I can also do it, like,
Yeah.
and when they tell you that, hey, yeah, you should do this, they kind of guide you, it really helps. And so so then kind of all those things kind of prepared me. I was like, yeah, I will do this. But after reaching here, there were a lot of other set of not issues, like getting adjusted to. You are in a different country. It was
Yeah.
my first time going outside of India. Like I had not traveled or anything before. So first time leaving India was coming to LA to USC. So getting adjusted. And also there is a huge financial burden at that time we used to have. Like, first of all, I felt like I quit a good job. Like I really had an amazing job. I was living the best life, enjoying the salary I got. So quitting that job was a big decision. And I was like, there were moments where I'm like, did I make a mistake? Like, but I'm like, no, this is my decision with me. So that is one thing that I had to overcome, that guilt, not guilt, like will I regret it in future? That kind of a mentality, like, But then I was like, since I'm here, let me go through it. And then as a student, I like most students who come to US for studies, they do part-time jobs. So along with the course, we had to manage part-time jobs. So students can work up to 20 hours in a week. So obviously, most students try to choose it because that kind of helps with the expenses. Like, you can kind of earn your rent or like some your food and living expenses with the part-time job that you have. So if your family is not able to support financially so much, like, it's a good way to earn some income while studying. But then it also takes up, if you take up 20 hours to work, it kind of like, makes your entire schedule very hectic. So that was one thing I had to cope with, like balancing studies along with the part-time job. I did work, I think during my entire semester, I was working part-time. So that was one thing that I had to cope up with. Then the other thing was there is nobody to, like, you have to do your own groceries, you have to do your own cooking, you have to do your own laundry, you have to do all the cleaning. So all the things, you're very independent, like, so all the things when you do your BTech, it's very easy. Like if you're a day scholar, you have your mom doing all that for you. If you're in a hostel, so you don't have to do cooking and all that. But in US, you cannot afford all those services initially when you come as a student. So a lot of students, and even like university housing is a little expensive because I studied in California. USA is a private university, so it was more expensive than the state universities that they have. But I chose it because it was a good university. And when I spoke to some people, they were like, don't look at the cost now. I know the fees is higher and it's expensive, but in the end, it will be worth it. Like the return that you get, the like in the end, what you're looking for is to get a best job, and you will pick a place from where there are more chances to land in a better job, right? So so studying in a private university was little difficult because of the expenses it had. So all this, and then another thing was being homesick, like, because I mean, when I was working in Bangalore, I used to go home. I mean, my home is in Alua. Like, I used to go home every month. Like, I used to visit family every month. But now it was not possible. So at some point, you also become very homesick. So these were some things that you had to cope, and everything was happening together, like, and all of a sudden, like, So it was a difficult thing to cope with. But then I was not alone in this. I had friends, like, we were all going through this together. Like, we used to do combined study. We used to we had each other's bags, like, So it didn't feel, so that makes it a little more lighter. Like, everything you feel like, okay, you're not alone in this. To an extent, you are alone in it, but then you also have people with you. So it kind of lessens the burden. So it was difficult. I wouldn't say that it was easy. Like every day there were sleepless nights, there were no weekends, like, nothing, no movie, no fun, basically. It was hectic. But I would not have had it any other way. Like, looking back, I really cherish those days and it was really worth it.
That was a true story of perseverance to listen to. And with that, we go to our next question. So, you were a part of the placement cell of MEC, and that means you do have the real capability of working promptly under pressure. So, with that, and what were the other traits you think that you earned from MEC that helped you stay strong while doing your master's?
I'm always grateful to MEC because those 4 years were actually one of the best 4 years, and it was kind of laying the foundation phase of my life, I think. Because, yeah, like in school, like you're still growing up, and I think college, those 4 years, that's the time where you kind of have like creates a sense of identity for yourself, like, MEC, what I like about MEC is that in MEC, a lot of things are student owned. Like, students take up a lot of initiative. And you also have a lot of inspiring figures as seniors. Like, when you see your seniors doing a lot of things, you are like, oh, this is good. Like, because in school, you mostly do things that teachers ask you. Like, you don't make your own decisions so much. But uh, in MEC, I don't know how other colleges are, but in MEC, I felt like students play a really important role and there is more freedom to do what you want, like, So I really enjoyed the MEC days. And coming to placement cell, yeah, Joining placement cell was not a very thoughtful decision I made, like, because at that time, there were like, okay, you need three people from the class and stuff like that. So I just signed up to be one person. But oh my God, placement cell was a very good experience. Like, it was nothing, like it came as very overwhelming because yeah, it was like along with your uh, studies, like it was a huge responsibility. Like, signing up, I never thought it is like a big responsibility that you have. And the way I understand why the placement cell operates the way it operates, because it is not something that you can take lightly. It's a very the work that you put in can affect the future of a lot of your batchmates, like, so that sense of responsibility had to be put into our heads so that we can like really work towards securing jobs for our batchmates, our seniors and stuff like that, like, so there was a lot of pressure, learning a lot of things, like, we had to learn a lot about a lot of companies, the way they operate, when to contact them, what not to tell them, what to tell them, what works best for our students, which companies to bring in, like, all those things were not like easy decisions to make. So we had to be trained, or like our seniors taught us what they did and what they learned so far. We even interacted with a lot of super seniors who had graduated. They gave us guidances on how their companies work and what we should do, to whom to contact and stuff like that. So yes, I am grateful to Placement Cell so that I was able to learn all these things. And one more thing that I'm really grateful to for Placement Cell was it was like an introduction to the professional world for me. Like, through placement cell is the first time I'm talking to an HR, or I'm talking to someone who is already in the industry, like, and initially it was like you panic, like even if you feel like, am I asking the right things? Even to send an email, you will think twice, you will read the draft 5 times whether I am, like, so all those things kind of were really, and also the etiquette, like, how do you interact, like how do you professionally reach out to somebody and stuff like that. So those were the things that I learned from placement cell. So eventually when I was like facing an interview, or I was in a company working, it felt like very natural, like, it didn't feel, I didn't have that panic anymore, like, that, oh, I'm talking to somebody working in that company, how do I talk to them? Because I felt like placement cell has already given me all that like, learning kind of. And it was also a very great feeling when your friend, like, when you could be a small part, like, you could contribute a little bit towards getting a friend or a batchmate place, like, so that gave a very, it was a very fulfilling feeling. So placement cell altogether was like a very good experience, fond memories, made a lot of friends, and it kind of also gave me a sense of responsibility and, like, bringing about some change or doing something for a good of our batchmates, and in general putting the name of our college outside, talking to the professionals and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it was a very good phase, and I'm glad that I was part of placement cell of MEC. Yeah.
So, what would you want to say as an advice or as a roadmap that students my age could do better so that they could, if at all they had higher education as a bucket list?
I would say things have changed in a decade, and I am really glad the way things have changed, because I feel like now students are more passionate, and I think they have a better idea and clarity at a very young age. Like, as I mentioned, for me and a lot of my batchmates, we even started thinking about higher education, or say higher education, pursuing higher education in different countries only after we graduated. Like, during college, these were the things that very rarely came up in our discussion. Maybe one or two really passionate students would have done that, but in general, the trend was we just have fun and then somehow get placed and start working. That was the only thing that we had in mind. But I think in the past few years, that has changed. Students, when they are in the college itself, they kind of start thinking about what they want to achieve. Some people have a clarity on, okay, this is what I want to do. So that is really good to have. But even if you don't have it, it's okay. I would say don't fall into any pressure. Like, sometimes like it's not very easy to know what you want so early. Like, sometimes you would need maybe third year, fourth year, sometimes even if it's after. So it's okay. And say if you want to do higher education, I would say gather as much knowledge as you can. Like, now there are like now we have internet, social media, LinkedIn and everything. So now there is a platform to reach out. And I think by now there are a lot of alumni from MEC itself who are in various countries, not just in the US, I think, who have pursued. Some people have gone to, I think, Sweden, like Europe, like, Australia, like there are different people in different parts of the world. So I think it would be nice to reach out so that you can get like some personalized advice, like, because when someone gives you an advice who are also from your similar background, it kind of makes a bigger impact to you, because you know that you could relate with it more, like, so gather as much knowledge as you can, and then make a decision. You don't have to necessarily follow somebody's path as it is, like, these are just the advices that you get to kind of figure out what you want, like, make the decision for yourself in the end, like, uh, pursuing higher education is definitely a good thing, like, because it definitely adds benefit to your career, like, so yeah. And if you start early or start late, there's no timeline basically, like, there's nothing like, oh, I have to start now, oh, I'm too late. Don't have any kind of feeling like that. Whenever you feel confident, you are ready, or whenever you feel like, okay, now I feel like I should pursue it, and then start your research, like, I would say between your first thought that, oh, I want to study, and till the time you actually land up in a college, there will be like 1 to 2 years of time. It's a journey, it's not as simple. And so it's okay, like, be patient, do your work, leave the rest to the destiny or whatever, the universe, to come back to you. But do your research, and then put in the work, and then you will see the results. Yeah.
Did the university's curriculums or the projects that you did during your higher studies make you industry ready, or was there side by side self learning also further involved?
um I think a mix of both, but I think the university part is very important. Like, a lot of recruiters, when they look at your resume, they do look at your GPA. GPA is very important. So, and your coursework. Like in US, I think we even list down the courses that we have taken in our resume. Like, I've not seen that a lot. Uh, in India, I don't know. Back then we never used to do that, but now I don't know how your resume formats there are. But here we do put, like, I say that, hey, I have taken this course, like, I have taken this course, so and then this is my GPA. So if I mention that in my resume, it adds a value. So choosing the courses which the industry looks for, like, is important, like, so. And like say I knew that I wanted to end up in this kind of a job, so then I knew that for this kind of a job, these are the skill sets required. So then I was like, okay, for these skill sets, these are the courses I should take. So that was my thought process. And I also wanted to make sure I have a really good GPA in those courses. So that you gain from your college. And then you also have academic projects, like, and USC is one university which is a lot industry oriented. Like some of our professors, they actually tell us that, hey, in your interviews, these are the topics that companies ask. So let me teach you this. So our professors were also like very up to date on what was happening in the industry, what were the interview trends and all that. And they should actually guide us in the class itself. So which was a really good thing, like, So in our lectures itself, they kind of were preparing us to crack the interviews for the job. So that was one thing that I really liked about USC. And projects were also very good. So projects add a lot of value. And extra learning, I mean, honestly, during my coursework, I had no time to do some extra learning, because already the life during masters was very hectic. But I would definitely advise you to do that if you have the time, because now there are a lot of um, tutorials online, like, websites which offer different courses and stuff like that, right? So if you have the time, it is good. Like, learning something extra is always good, like, so if you can plan your time accordingly, that is good. But I will also advise, don't do everything and kind of leave it midway. Like,
Yeah.
like I knew that I had to have like a really good GPA, so I wanted to focus on that. If I go to take additional things in parallel and it affects my GPA, then that's not good. So plan your time wisely, like, because you have a lot in your on your plate. You have to learn in a certain, so academic preparation for your exams or your coursework is a little different from interview preparation. Like, in interview, you have to prepare in a certain amount of way, certain type of questions that they ask and stuff like that. So you have to do all that preparation. So yeah, plan your time wisely so that in the end, you don't feel drained or saturated. At the same time, you feel like you're adding value to your resume or you're adding value to your profile, like, So yeah, that's the advice I would give.
IT industry's boon and bane at the same time is that you need to constantly update yourself with the upcoming technologies. So how is this factor of constant learning and keeping yourself updated to the industry relevant skills applicable to a core branch as that of yours in your own position?
See, engineer, like doing an engineering is a very, like, people say that if you're an engineer, it's easy to grab a job. Like, if you study well for 4 years and then you have a decent GPA and you crack an interview, it's a very, because there are so many opportunities. Like, I think there are a lot of companies, be IT or like, any core industry, computer science or any other domain. There are a lot of engineers at the same time, there are a lot of opportunities, but there is a lot of competition, like, so you have to be on your top game all the time. Like, even among your peers, there is always a performance evaluation. Like, even if you're working, the learning never stops, like, because constantly in your day to day, like, yeah, today or like now, I'm not opening a textbook and reading, or like, I'm not like reading and gaining knowledge per se as I used to do when I was a student more, because this is not like a learning for an exam kind of a preparation, right? But then this is more of a learning that like you do to do your day-to-day job more efficient way, like, so I wouldn't call it as a bane, because without challenges there is no thriving. Sometimes you need those challenges to push yourself, kind of a thing, like, because if I feel like if everything comes easily to you, you won't appreciate the value of it and you won't have the thrill. I mean, at least personally for me, it's like that. I like a little bit of challenge. That I feel like that's what keeps me going. If everything seems too easy, then I feel like something is missing, like, so even in my job, I like that, okay, there is a little bit of like, challenge, and or I have a deadline at which I have to do something. So I kind of thrive at such situations. Maybe, I don't know, maybe as you mentioned earlier, like, all that training kind of working under pressure, or like, even at my master's, that working under that pressure made me in a certain way that now when a pressure situation comes, I don't feel that it's a bane. Like, I feel like it kind of makes me push myself to do that extra kind of. But also at the same time, you need to have like a work-life balance. So
Yeah.
as much as your career is important, you also have other aspects in your life. So I think it's important to reach an industry or work in a company where you feel satisfied career-wise, and it doesn't consume a lot from your, like, personal life, kind of a thing. So I would say that, yeah, like wherever you end up working, make sure that there is a good, ample work-life balance. At the same time, at your work, you get challenged enough so that you feel that you are growing in that company. So, yeah.
What advice would you like to give to aspiring engineers, particularly those who are interested in pursuing a career in VLSI or ASIC design?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm like, someone who can give advice or anything, but I will share from my experience. Like, see, I was not a very confident student. And also the thing is, I feel like, okay, we are from a, like, I know that in Kerala, MEC is a really good college, and like, but when you step out, you are meeting people from all around India. There might be people from IITs, NITs, or like other big colleges. And when you kind of interact with them, you feel less confident. You are like, am I good enough? Like, that feeling comes up. And always I used to have that feeling, like, in different stages of my life, I am like, am I good enough as my peers? Like, or the other people I'm working with. But I would advise that have that confidence, like, because I think we are good enough. Like, what we learn in MEC and the fundamentals and the not just the technical skills, the life skills that we learn, like, it's also very important, like confidence and communication and the way you express yourself, all those skills that you learn, you have to put yourself with confidence. Confidence is the key, like, so that is the advice I would give, because don't hesitate, don't self-doubt yourself. It is okay to feel so. I mean, there will be days where you feel, yeah, I'm good. There will be days where you feel like, oh no, I don't know anything, like, so it's okay. But in general, I would say that you don't like stop yourself from dreaming. Like, even I never thought I would come to US or I would get an admit. Like, I used to doubt it, but I was like, I'll try. Like, if you don't get it, you don't get it, fine. But then you have to try. Like, if you are aspiring something, okay, if this university is your dream or this course is your dream, give it a shot. And if you get it, fine. If not, at least you know that you tried, like, that is one advice I would give. And then another advice I would give is, don't fall into the pressure of, hey, my friend got this job, I am not there yet. Or like, I would say that pressure of following a certain timeline can affect your mental health, because you would feel, even though you're good at something, you would not, your energy would be diverted very negatively, and you would feel like, okay, I'm not there yet. There is no timeline. Your timeline is yours, like, so even if it takes months, years to reach where you are at, don't hesitate, like, uh, go at your own pace. That's what I would say. And one thing I would, another thing that I would want to advise is, uh, have a good network, like have a good professional social network, like, reach out to people. Like, I feel really good if a student, a MEC, not just MEC student, any junior reaches out to me and asks any help or question. I always try to reply. I like people pinging me. So don't think that they are busy or they won't have time. Reach out, like, because sometimes you would end up getting some really good advices from people that could really help you make some decision or change some perspective about you, or like, they would guide you, hey, why don't you look at this thing, or like, so that could really help you. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to people. And since MEC has a really good alumni network, I think no MECian, every MEC or ex-MECian would like it if someone reaches out to them. Nobody will be like, oh, they are disturbing me. I don't think anybody will, because we have all that imbibed in ourselves from college, because it's like a family, right? So we
Yeah.
have that kind of a feeling, even though it's been like 10 to 12 years that I got out of college. Some of my close friendships are the ones I made at MEC. Some of the, like, so I would say we all have that sense of a family. So don't hesitate to reach out. And then I would say, work hard, like, like the percentile that you have, that matters, the projects that you do matter. So don't take it lightly. I know, I mean, I wouldn't say keep studying all the time. We all need to have fun, because this is the time. I mean, I feel like when I look back, when I'm saying all this, but I used to have a lot of fun at college. I used to be there for every activity, like, would be it be sports, arts, or anything, like, or bunking classes, do all that. Like, I wouldn't say be very serious and study all the time. No way. Do all that, have all the fun, but always have a sense of your goals. Like, this is what I want to achieve. So don't get like too sidetracked. Like, have that, try to balance right from the college. So kind of, how to maintain that balance throughout your life, like, so yeah, I think that is it. I don't have any other big things to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Minnu, for sharing your invaluable insights and experiences with us today. So, your journey from model engineering college to becoming a DFT engineer at Apple right now gives an exemplary example to all of us and the engineering
Thank you.
graduates of what all are the possibilities and career paths waiting ahead of us. And with that, we are ending the session. And stay tuned for more on Careers Decoded. as we explore more of diverse engineering paths. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep decoding yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. It was really nice talking to you.
Bye.
Take care and good luck to everybody. Yeah, thank you.